You've probably heard of a road called El Camino Real. Maybe you've even driven on it. But what if I told you that its name, the King's Road, unlocks a hidden story? A story about two very, very different kinds of kings walking two very different roads.
So if you're in California, this is a sight you know. Those iconic mission bells lining the highway. This is El Camino Real. And the name itself just feels grand, right? It sounds like history, like pageantry, like a road with a royal purpose.
But then, you have this kind of road, a path that looks like it's all about desperation, maybe even fear and just trying to survive. It doesn't look very royal at all, does it? And yet this, believe it or not, is also a king's road. So how can that be? How can both of these be the King's Road? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
Okay, so let's dive in, and let's start with the road we think we know, El Camino Real. What's actually in that name?
It's Spanish, and it's actually pretty straightforward. El means the, Camino means road or highway, and Real, that's the important part, means royal. So you put it all together, and you get the Royal Road, the King's Highway.
And here's the key. This road was literally established by a royal decree. Back in the 18th century, the King of Spain himself ordered Franciscan friars to forge a path connecting 21 brand new missions. This was a massive project, a huge undertaking. So this wasn't just some random dirt path. It was a project of the crown. It was a physical symbol of a grand vision.
And when you hear King's Road, this is kind of what you picture, isn't it? You imagine these grand parades, the famous mission bells ringing, crowds of people cheering. It's a path of honor, of celebration, of strength. It's the postcard version of a king's journey. But, as we're about to see, not all kings get to travel that way.
Okay, now let's shift gears completely, because the whole idea of a king's road is much, much older than California. The Bible tells us about another future king walking his own royal road, and it looked nothing like the grand highway we just talked about.
And the very first question this future king gets asked tells you everything you need to know. Not, hey, where's your royal escort? Or where's the parade? Nope. It's, why are you alone? That single question just hangs in the air. It immediately tells you this king isn't being celebrated. He's isolated. He's on the run.
And this is David. Yeah, that David. The one who's been anointed to be the next king of Israel. But right now, he's a fugitive. The guy currently on the throne, King Saul, is so consumed by jealousy that he wants him dead. So David's royal road is just a desperate scramble for his life, with no entourage, no ringing bells, and definitely no cheers, just hunger and fear.
So completely exhausted and starving, David shows up at a holy place, the sanctuary at Nob. And there, he makes this simple, desperate request that's about to change everything.
He asks for 5 loaves of bread. That's it. Just enough to keep him and his men going. It's pretty interesting, actually, that in the Bible, the number 5 often symbolizes God's grace. So you could say that in this moment, David isn't just asking for food, he's pleading for just a little bit of grace to survive one more day.
But of course, there's a catch. The only bread the priest has on hand is the holy showbread. And according to religious law, that bread was reserved exclusively for priests. Giving it to David would mean breaking a really sacred rule.
So the priest has this incredible choice to make. Does he stick to the letter of the law, or does he follow the spirit of the law? He chooses life. He understands that the whole point of God's laws is to preserve and honor life. It's a principle, by the way, that Jesus himself would later call back to, referencing this exact story.
So for David, this bread was so much more than just a meal. It was this tangible sign that even on this desperate, lonely road, he wasn't totally abandoned. It was the fuel, it was the grace he needed to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. But God wasn't finished yet.
Because after getting some food in him, David received something even more powerful. Something that's going to reshape not just his journey, but who he sees himself as. His hunger is gone, and then David makes another request. Do you happen to have a weapon? I mean, think about how bizarre this is. He's standing in a holy sanctuary, a place of peace and worship, and he's asking for a sword. It's completely out of place.
But incredibly, there is a weapon there. And it's not just any weapon. It's the sword of Goliath, the giant. The one David famously defeated when he was just a shepherd boy with a sling and a stone. The very symbol of his greatest victory was right there, waiting for him.
And you can just hear the change in his voice. When he asked for bread, he sounded like a desperate beggar. But when he sees this sword, his tone completely flips. There is none like it.
Give it to me. That's the voice of a king, remembering who he is.
You could say this sword was like David's Excalibur. It wasn't just a piece of metal. It was this powerful, physical reminder of who he truly was. He wasn't just some fugitive running from Saul. He was David, the giant slayer. He was God's champion. The sword reconnected him to his true identity.
So what are these two completely different king's roads? One of shiny pageantry, the other of pure peril, have to teach us? Well, this is where the story really comes home for all of us.
I mean, look at this transformation. David walks into that sanctuary as a terrified, broken fugitive. But he leaves, sustained by grace, that's the bread, and armed with his true identity, that's the sword. He didn't find a new, easier path. He found exactly what he needed to walk the one he was already on.
And this is the whole point. The grand, celebrated road isn't always the one that makes us who we're meant to be. David's true El Camino Real, his real King's Road, was this difficult, lonely path of hardship. It was on that road that he was stripped of everything, only to be given exactly what he needed to become the king he was born to be.
And that means that on our own difficult journeys, we're given the same two things. We're given bread, that's the grace, the strength, the little bits of help that just keep us going day after day. And we're given a sword, that reminder of our core identity, our past victories, and the purpose that no hardship can ever take away from us.
Which really leaves us with this one last thought. We all walk difficult roads. They might not feel very royal, but they are often the very paths that are shaping us into who we're becoming. So the real question isn't how to find an easier road. It's how to recognize the provisions for the one you're on right now. What is the bread that's sustaining you? And what is the sword that reminds you of who you truly are?